you see altered reality?
Yep.
Yes, I can. Let me just open my reminders and see where the heck I put it. Well, I can always wing it if I can't find it. Ah, there we go. June Salon.
Steve, can you make
All
your
right.
screen, that screen bigger?
Oh, let's see. It's not filling the screen.
Uh,
That's
well,
not
that's
my
better, but I
face.
think you're going to be cutting off part of the dot bottom.
Ah, this maybe is it. Dang it, it didn't save my notes to myself about my comments. I'm annoyed now.
Well, when you see the images, you'll probably
Yeah,
remember.
I usually make notes to myself. Okay. This one, are you saying the scores ahead of time or not?
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Let me back up here. Yeah, so this is altered reality category. These are the sevens. So there you have a proper introduction.
And the
All
title
right.
of this image is Bend in the River,
Bend
Okay.
in the road.
in the
Yeah.
road.
Getting in the road, yeah. Um, what I was particularly liking about it was the effect on the sky and the road, and I liked the bones of the image with the curve here leading to an element that goes up and then back around. Where it fell down for me was over the vegetation. It didn't seem to suit that as well, so I would suggest masking that off. All right, next.
Guava Grove in full moonlight.
I like the exposure. I like the effect on pretty much everything, but the I could make out that there's a motorcycle, but it's too strong on that particular element, and it just that is in a prime spot in the circular composition. So I would like to have seen it backed off on the motorcycle just a little bit.
Eight.
This one, the fractalization worked very well, and you started with a good composition with the to the stag. Are you able to see my cursor?
No, Steve would
Um,
have to, you know, Steve could
I've got
point
the
it out.
cursor. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm mimicking the diagonal composition. What could have got it a little higher is the fractalization on the wing edges and the antenna especially caused a bit of haloing, and you could maybe have tried masking that out a little bit. And that would have scored it even higher.
Okay. On to black and white and sevens.
I love the stare. I could wish the photographer was a little bit more level with her eyes, though. I thought black and white was a good choice. Um, the eyes aren't quite as sharp as say the hair on the forehead, so I think the camera focused in on the forehead on you, and the depth of field wasn't enough to pull it all the way to the eyes. But you've got a nice catch light, and I just love the expression on her face. Okay, next. This is Ralph Lauren woman, Copen, Honduras. I really liked the expressions on her face, and she has got a well-weathered face, and that is fabulous. Um, I didn't like that part of her hand and the bag was cut off. There are probably people over there, but maybe if you're gonna crop in that much, maybe just get in on that wonderful face. Okay, next. There were two like this, and I happen to like the other one better, but this one has a fairly nice circular composition, And it's these toes are definitely prominent as opposed to the others. I would have liked to have seen a little more darkness around the edges because I'm being pulled out of the frame by that light. Okay, next.
8s.
Ah, this is the one I was talking about. In this one, you're no doubt which foot you're supposed to focus on. But you still have a hint of the other one, and then it's circled around and around with the bedding and or gown or whatever that is. And I think black and white was a good choice, so it didn't make too much of a uh, color mismatch if there were issues with the blanket.
And this one is by Ricky Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought maybe to get it even a little bit stronger, they could have tried cropping off the sides and made it more vertical since the feet are going vertical. All right,
Okay.
next.
9s.
Ah, yes, this was a very, two subjects can work if they're connected in some way, and these are connected in a couple different ways. They're echoing poses almost. It's a mother and child. They both have the catch lights, and the child is on mom's back, and there's a nice soft bokeh in the background. Um, I think the zone could have been adjusted a little bit on the fur because I think in black and white it probably would come out a little bit darker, and that would have punched it up a little bit and raised it even higher.
And that was by Marianne Derricks.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay.
next.
Nature. 7s.
Oh, I really loved what was going on with the parrot or macaw, which it is, whatever it is, and that long tail. I could have wished there was more space below it, and the bird had more room to look into. Where I particularly, it is sharp on the eye. I did enlarge a tidge to check that, but down below along the tail feathers. It looks like they did some darkening in the background and it didn't quite go all the way to the edge of the tail feathers. So you want to adjust your mask a little bit. Next.
There we go. 10s.
This is the reclusive lesser ground cuckoo by Marianne Derricks.
And again, this is fabulous. Look at that lovely bokeh, the sharpness in the eye, the catch light. The bird is not just sitting there, it's singing. And even though the bird is centered, the positioning of the branch gives you the illusion that it is you're using most of the frame. And while the bird is centered maybe horizontally, it is down at a third and an upper third with the eye and the branch. And I just felt everything came together in this one.
Okay. Pictorial. 7s.
Oh, I really like this one. I thought it was a very clever idea. They had great depth of field and the drop off of the lighting. To get it just a little bit higher, I was bothered by the tool bow. What if you used a flexible tape measure as the bow? And I thought that would fit in with the tools better. But I really like that circular composition going on with all the various hammers and wire cutters and whatnot. Next, this one, how to climb a flower. Well, it was kind of up and down. I really like the curve for the flower and that you brought some of the orange of the flower into the frog. However, something just looked odd about the frog's body, and then I realized the orange is going over the cloud behind the frog's arm near the stem and the leaf. So you might want to just clean that up a little bit so that the frog doesn't look so offhand. I'm sure that would score much higher if there wasn't anything a judge could point at about that, as this was very clever. Next. This one went up, down, all around. When I start out with judging, I tend to move everything I think is worthy for consideration to be in the top into a file, and then I have to count, and then I have to start taking things out because, as usual, I had twice as many. I went back and forth on this one. I love the bokeh. I love where the flowers are going across. I love that it's a family. There were just some images that were just a little bit stronger connection with me emotionally. All three of these have a catch light. The symmetry would have been perfect had the immature been also drinking instead of just approaching. But apparently he or she hasn't quite got it. But I was pleased to see that the photographer did well in N4C, so I didn't feel quite so bad then. But yeah, I was moved down reluctantly. But there were some others that spoke to me more. All right, next. All right, this one is called Take Me Home. And I really liked the vanishing point and the leading lines, and that the curve in the cloud um, matched the curve in the road. It just felt like it needed maybe one more element. You've got a foreground element and you've got a background element, but really the only thing in the middle ground is the yellow line, and maybe, just a car, a bicycle, a pedestrian, just something in the middle ground would give it more depth and bring it up. But I love the exposure. It is really well done. Okay, next. Yes. This one is meant to pull the heartstrings. It's Tiny Kitten. Not even got its eyes open yet. And I like that it's cradled in the hand of a rugged, looks like farmer's hands to me. And just the way the kitten is curled around in the fist. It's just a little bit blown out around the nose and some of the hand area. And like I said, I had to get nitpicky. I had too many in the top ones. Okay, next. Oh, this is another great example of Americana. Everything is very sharp in the image. You've got a foreground element, and then you've got the middle ground kind of with the chairs, and then you've got, the background sort of losing focus in there. I just would have liked to have seen something stronger on which to rest my eye. This is where you want your stupid tourist either in the door or sitting in a chair so that it doesn't look like it's closed for business or gives you food poisoning and nobody will go there. All right, next. This is another one that was up, down, all around. I really love the way the tree just fills the frame, and the infrared effect is marvelous on it. I don't mind the way the clouds go in with the lens effect, but I finally was really bothered by the geometry for the houses. I think if you were to take it into the geometry section and try to just straighten out, and maybe you even have to do a puppet warp because the tree looks straight, but the houses are all leaning in towards the tree. And I think if those were not doing so, they would fade into the background and let the tree be the star. Okay, next. Yeah, do I have to? Everything about this child's posture says he does not want to dance. I could have wished everything was nice and sharp. I just wish the photographer had been maybe a little bit looking over the girl's shoulder to get some of the boy's eye roll, because I could just feel that eye roll. And I think it tells a great story, and that would have gotten it up a little bit into the keepers, maybe. Okay, next. Ah, yes. This is another one that I had to reluctantly move down. I really like the diagonal composition going through here, but I don't think, and the exposure is spot on everywhere. Nothing is blown. There's good details in the shadows. You got perfect bokeh. I don't think the square crop suited this. It often does when there's a single one, but it almost has a rectangle to it with the two together and they're touching, so they make one subject. But I would have liked to have seen more room off to the sides instead of cropped in to crop the side square. I would like to see more of a rectangular crop. Okay, next.
Nines.
Hearing Footsteps by Fred Sabatka.
All right, this is a great photojournalism shot. Had the girl's eyes been looking straight ahead, it has still been a good photojournalism shot. But looking off to her right to see who's gaining on her, I think really brings the group full circle. The photographer got the group on the corner, so they're slowing down and bunching up, and the bokeh is perfect. The exposure was great. The only thing you could have wished for is out of the photographer's control, and that's the amputees in the background, where it looks like you don't see the other feet of the secondary runners. That would have moved it to a 10 if you'd happened to caught that, but this look is far worth it if you didn't have that look on an image where you happen to catch the others. All right, Red Hat. Oh, Terry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Red Hat Climber by Marianne Sear.
Ah, yes, this one was really well done. She is just surrounded by the ice of the waterfall that she's climbing. You're filling the frame with her. She's spread out. You could tell that she is in the act of climbing. I could have wished the only thing that would have got it to a 10 was just a tidge more profile, and she was looking at the ice pick more to the right, or the photographer was a little bit over, could pick up more of the profile, but it's better than having no profile at all. And that's the only thing that would have got it to a 10. Otherwise, it's really well framed, got key moments, and just well exposed. Okay.
Tens.
Oh, yeah. This one was the first one to go into the keep file. This is probably up on the North Shore. I think I've been in this area. I recognize it, but this is really well done. They got nice and close to the foreground rocks, and it is sharp from the foreground rocks through the pool. And it just starts to fall off and give a nice haze to give a sense of distance. The three clouds in the sky are mimicking or echoing, if you want to harken back to spring break, the pattern of the lichen in front. And then you've got the sun reflected in the water, and that's the part that's important not to have blown out, which they do not. It doesn't matter about the sky so much. It just has a lovely halo on it, and just I just keep going around and around. I come in at the lower left and go around to the right side, follow the trees to the sun, up to the clouds, and back down to the peninsula and down to the rocks. And my eye does not want to escape. It wants to keep looking at that as long as I can.
We're on to the topic category. Sixes.
Oh, yeah, I liked the composition and I liked the exposure. That was very well done. The sharpest part of the image is the sunburst under the bridge. Since the Capitol is such a strong part of the image, I would have liked to have seen that be the sharpest part. That was the only thing is the focus is in the wrong place. So that was a technical thing. All right, next. All right, this one, Stairway. I like that there was a progression of the lamps to the building. Um, they're a little overblown. It looked like the photographer tried to darken them down some, but then that just gives a blue gray. You got to add yellow to counteract that. It does have that nice step down, but what if you crop the left side like this tree next to the lamp that's not lit and just look at this area? I think it's a little stronger with that crop. That tree in the middle is kind of dividing the image. All right, next. All right, this one, I really liked the exposure on the sky and clouds. I liked that the photographer caught a boat in this empty space here. I don't think you need the stuff on the right with that sidebar. Um, you could even potentially come in just to the edges of the people, but not into the boat. But more importantly, what really needs to happen is to dealing with all those camera sensor dust spots in the sky. They were really distracting. All right, next.
Sevens.
Go ahead. All right, this is called a roll cloud, and they did name it Ray of Hope under the roll cloud. And I really like that they caught the chaoticness of a roll cloud, and they kept the lake a very small part of the frame, and they did this long near panoramic crop. It's a little bit blown out where the sun comes through, but not too bad. But all the light is on the left side of the image. I think it would have helped had you come over to the right side of the image, and especially the sky, the water, and some of the clouds on that side. Just brighten those up a little bit so my eye doesn't want to stay just in the left half of the frame. Okay, next. All right. I really this is a lovely vanishing point. It's an excellent example of that. The sharpness extends from way in front to past the elevator doors. Uh, there is a good foreground element in terms of the side lights, and then the vanishing point is a background element. I would have liked to have seen anything as a middle ground element too, like in that pentagon type square that the elevator shaft or wherever that is, or side hallway, um, would it could be a kid looking lost, whatever, anything, to give you some middle ground and lined up with the vanishing point. That would help lead in, but also give a resting spot on the way in. Okay, next. Ah, yes. I really thought this was well done as a black and white. I almost had a curious screw. I can't pronounce the word. It's, strong blacks, strong whites effect. What could have got it up a little bit higher is it is so dark on the heel of the shoe. I'm pretty sure just by the shape of the shoe, it's not cropped out, but it's so dark there that there's no separation. And that was one of the nitpicky things that I moved it down for because I had too many. Okay, next. Ah, yes, this one went up and down all around. I I loved the patterns on the snake and the way it's wrapped around the branches, the nice bokeh. The camera and the lighting focus sharpest on the brightest part of the skin pattern. I could have wished it had gone up to the eye a little bit more. You could still probably make that acceptable just by doing a radial gradient around the eye and increasing contrast and sharpness. And then you could potentially desaturate some of the bright orange on the lower right so that you could continue to follow to because the head on whether it's an anaconda or python, I'm not sure, some sort of constrictor. The head is not as colorful, so I'm finding myself pulled to the diamond pattern back down here. Lovely catch light, just maybe a little more post-processing.
Sevens.
All right, this was an image that it is sharp from the very front back through the first palm tree. I like the exposure, especially on the right hand of the sky. There's something wonky going on in the upper left. The photographer may be shooting through a window. Um, it was well exposed. The sunset color is nicely done. But having that roof line in the center seems to be dividing the image. What if you cropped it so that the foreground people aren't even there? And then I think it pulls you into the image some more, especially this guy that's being cut off. And I think you have enough room to come in on the bottom. And then that would put that roof line lower down in the image. Right now, it feels like two images. Next. I didn't see this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Terry, that was the one I asked you about that I said I didn't have that one. I think I would have put this in the top had I seen it. I really like the coloration around the hot springs. I like the way the clouds come in. And then everything sort of falls off a little bit. But you've got a third foreground, and you've got the middle ground with the hot springs, and then you've got the background with the sky. So I might have moved something else down to make room for it, but I'm not sure what I would have done because I had hard enough time moving things down. All right, next. All right, this one I really liked the rainy day feel that really saturated all the colors. It just had a nice sense of place and going back in time. I like the foreground, the middle ground, and the background with the wall, and the telephone is even visible inside. I think it just needed something with a complementary color. It could be an umbrella sitting there, could be a person. That bench just begs to be sat in. I want some old timer person in that bench. Okay, next. Oops. All right, this is another one that I went round and round about. Um, More than likely the it is on a slope, so that I didn't pull against it that it wasn't level because a lot of these places live on hills. I really liked what was going on in the center of the image. There's nice lighting in there. When you get to the edges, the bright lights are pulling my eye away. I would like to have seen the edges cropped closer to the edges of the trees overhead, and then maybe burn some of the highlights and bring out a little bit of the midtones in the center to make it even stronger. Okay, next.
Eights.
All right, this was a wonderful teachable moment captured very nicely. You're not just photographing someone else's art, although that is part of the image, but you are catching interaction going on here, connection with the painting. The fingers are almost touching visually. You've got the Sense It's in a Museum by the plaque. They're in a nice spot as a group of three, and everything just moves around nicely. Um, I think the girl might have moved a little bit because unlike the other, she's a little bit more blurry, or she could be just further forward. I'm sure it was a very high or ISO in because they don't allow flash in these places, and the lighting isn't all that great. So there would have been a lot of noise reduction, which is what gives it that painterly effect. Had it been a little bit more depth of field that extended all the way to the viewers, because right now the sharpest part is the painting, then I would have put that up even higher, but it was still telling a good enough story to be included. Next.
Nines.
Oh, did you say who, Terry, did you want to say whose this is, or maybe we lost Terry? Okay, Presque Isles Falls, Michigan. I don't know who the photographer is, but I really like all the diagonal leading lines leading you back in with the bank and then the water leading you back out and going round and round. I like that there's some brightness pulling me back into the frame and then there's some brightness along the side. This would have gone to a 10 had you extended that brightness to the maple leaves in the foreground. Just brighten them up a little bit so there's similar bright tone to that. And then you've got a lovely triangular composition going on between the yellows, in the middle of which is this spearhead going through with all these beautiful falls. The exposure on them is perfect. The shutter speed is perfect. They got just right amount of flow and it just looks very nice. I'll be up there pretty soon. I'm leaving tomorrow.
That's
Okay.
it.
Well, I did okay despite the fact I couldn't find where I stored my notes.
Linda, this has been great. Wonderful, helpful comments. Really appreciate it. Um, I agree with Terry that you're a great judge. So there.
I'm getting that impression. I think this, yeah, I'll be judging 4 clubs this summer. You're the third one.
Okay.
So and the fact, and I'm still getting that many invitations, despite the fact that we've added more judges, I think is giving me a sense that I'm doing okay.
Hmm.
All
I don't,
right.
I don't see anything in the chat to share, so I think we can be
No
done.
rotten tomatoes? Okay.
No,
I will bow out. I imagine you have your meeting to go. All
this will
right.
be the end for us too. So thank you very
Okay.
much. I'm going to stop sharing as well. So we
All
will be
right.
done. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Back to the woods of my invasion.
Goodbye.